We will start with yesterday we did that the environment and economy interaction and the nature of environmental economics, where we tried to show you a PPT, PowerPoint presentation, in which environmental economics was related to certain aspects like positive, normative, micro, macro, static, dynamic, and so on. And we tried to show through a diagram also that how economic development and environment is related. Now, after this, we come to the scope of environmental economics, or the importance of environmental economics, which will finish our this chapter of nature and scope of environmental economics. When we try to look at the scope of environmental economics, uh, you can write certain points and try to explain the area or the scope of environmental economics through this. For example, the first objective or the first area of environmental economics is to ensure economic development of the country, right? Because yesterday we talked about the difference between growth and development. So today we will try to show that environmental economics is to ensure the qualitative development of the country or economic development. So write down this point when you talk about the scope of environmental economics, that is economic development is one area where environmental economics is important, because it is there to maintain a balance between economic development and environmental quality, right? And how the environmental quality is going to ensure economic development, you can elaborate in 2 3 lines. I hope that you can understand this, that whenever the environmental quality is improved of the environment, then automatically people's health will improve, their efficiency will improve, to contribute in the nation's development. And so in that way there are various socio-economic possibilities which emerge to reduce pollution and to improve the standard of living of the people. So that way you have to connect the linkage between the improvement in the environmental quality and hence improving the health indicator of the people, improving the standard of living of the people, reducing the quantity of pollutants and emissions, and hence creating economic development of the country. So this is the first area which you can elaborate on if you are asked about what is the importance or the scope of this environmental economics. The other area, the other point which you can, if you want me to dictate or you can write it yourself, please tell me that. Please tell me that whether you want me to dictate the point which I just explained you, or you can write it yourself. That is the area of economic development. I'm not listening any one of you, or any you can write on the chat box also. You can write in 2 3 lines, I think that would be better. Economic development is the first area. The main objective, Prachi is saying we can write. So if you can write, then we will not waste this time for this general chapter. Economic development, you can write. I assume that everyone is able to write. I will just click the photo and send you. The other is welfare approach. Welfare approach is another framework for which we talk about environmental economics, that is creating socio-economic welfare of the people is important. and to ensure the welfare of the people, we need to use scarce resources in a most optimal manner, because we know, we have discussed this yesterday, that the resources are limited and the wants are unlimited. So the main problem is how to use those scarce resources in the most optimal manner. So this is what we do here when we talk about the welfare approach, that environmental economics helps us to ensure the maximum or the optimal utilization of the scarce resources, so that the ethical consumption of the resources can be done. Illegal consumption nahi, unethical consumption nahi, ethical consumption. Why we are saying ethical consumption, which is right, like you are not you know trying to evade the property rights of the other people when you talk about the consumption of the scarce resources. So here you are talking about that. Ethical से मतलब यहाँ पे यही है. So it suggests that what are the best possible means to tackle the environmental problems. You see this if you have the knowledge of environmental economics, and then you try to ensure the maximum optimal allocation of the scarce resources. This is called welfare approach, and welfare approach is going to be ensured through this. The third area where you talk about the scope of environmental economics is dynamic and stock flow approach. Dynamic, static dynamic we did yesterday, and stock flow approach or analysis. Now, most of the economic principles which we studied were related to static analysis. For example, we talked about law of demand, we talked about law of supply. These were the laws which were applicable to the static analysis, stationary analysis. Static and dynamic are the terms coined from physics. So if you talk about the static approach, then it means it is constant. But environmental issues are a dynamic concept. They are dynamic in nature. They keep on changing. The resources which are renewable in economy, they keep on changing. So we have to make out that difference, that environmental economics is a dynamic concept and simple economics is a static concept. That is one thing. Then resources have a stock. Stock means fixed amount, fixed quantity at a particular period of time. So resources have a stock. एंड लाइक कैपिटल जो हम बात करते हैं फैक्टर ऑफ प्रोडक्शन में, तो कैपिटल इज़ ऑल्सो अ स्टॉक कंसेप्ट, बिकॉज देर इज़ अ फिक्स्ड अमाउंट ऑफ कैपिटल at a particular period of time, and that stock or capital is subject to depreciation or replenishment. Similarly, the resources which you are talking about here, like the forest, the minerals, है ना, they have a stock, and after that, once the consumption is more, or when the resources are limited and the population is ever increasing, for example in India, then they are subject to depreciation and replenishment. So we have to keep that in mind. And so environmental issues or economics have a stock flow dimension also, that some resources are stock and some resources are flow. जो रिन्यूएबल रिसोर्सेज हैं वो हमारे फ्लो कंसेप्ट में आते हैं, जो नॉन रिन्यूएबल सोर्सेज हैं वो हमारे स्टॉक कंसेप्ट में आते हैं. सो वी नीड टू identify that stock flow dimension of the environmental resources, and then use the knowledge of environmental economics to use these resources in the optimal function. Then environmental values is another area where you can explain the importance or scope of environmental economics. Environmental values. Environmental values are economic values. Like, it is important for the society to connect to its limited resources in such a manner so that the economic efficiency can be increased, the interests of the people can be increased, the productivity of the people can be increased. So that is called environmental values, strengthening the environmental values. People understand the importance of resources gifted by nature. They don't just, जैसे garbage है, अब if you throw it the garbage on the road, that means you don't understand the value of the environmental resources. But if you know the importance of this, then automatically you will give value, you will assign value to your environmental resources. You will not cut the forests, you will not throw the garbage on the road, you will care for your environment. You will see that the emissions are not emissions are carbonless. So that is how we assign environmental values. And if people have the knowledge of environmental economics, their environmental values are going to be strengthened, and as their environmental values are going to be strengthened, then the economy will benefit. So that is another point which you can explain. Then the clean technology is another area which talks about the importance of environmental economics. Clean technology means carbon less. कार्बन एमिशंस जितने कम होंगे उतनी क्लीन टेक्नोलॉजी का यूज़ कहते हैं. जितना प्लास्टिक वेस्ट को रिसाइकल कर दोगे, जिस तरह का प्लास्टिक आप यूज़ करते हो, इफ़ इट इज़ रिसाइकलेबल, देन इट इज़ गोइंग टू बी कॉल्ड क्लीन टेक्नोलॉजी. So we have to talk about this aspect also as soon as you talk about the importance or scope of environmental economics, that clean technology provides the most rational use of our resources. If we don't give importance to clean technology, then automatically the resources are going to create more pollutants and effluents to the economy and the production. International cooperation is another area. There are many environmental issues where you need to have an international cooperation among the countries. And like climate change has become an international issue now, because every country is suffering from global warming, every country is suffering from say the environmental hazards. So what we need to do, we need to promote international cooperation in these areas of environmental concerns. Then we will be better able to fight the environmental issues with which we are suffering. And for example, I just told you yesterday that there is a big organization named UNEP, which is an organization of United Nations. So United Nations is a body which keeps in mind the interests of all the countries, not only one, all the member countries. So this is how the international cooperation needs to be strengthened as soon as we talk about the scope of environmental economics. And then conservation policy is another area. How to conserve our resources. We should not, just blindly use the environmental resources and not worry about their replenishment. We have to talk about the scarcity. We have to conserve these resources which become important for us. So this is how you talk about the importance or the scope of environmental economics. Now in unit 1 you have one more topic which is called material balance model, which is one of the important models on which you are asked the short note. So we will be telling you through PPT, and you can write that note in your copies for the short note of the material balance. I'll request Diksha to start sharing the screen for the PPT of material balance model. If you I hope that it is visible to everyone. Please write in the chat box if it is visible to you. It is given by just a background of this material balance model. Before coming exactly to this model, you can write here the functions of the economy are related to The functions of the economy are related to consumption, production, and distribution activities. As you already know, there are three important activities which happen in the economy: consumption, production, and distribution. So, we start with this background for this model, that the functions of the economy are related to consumption, production, and distribution activities. And these activities have a direct relation with the nature. दीक्षा भी स्टॉप रखना जब मैं बोलूँगी तब. These activities have a direct relation with nature. Nature provides raw material. Nature provides raw material to its activities specific to consumption and production. Consumption and production. Now the residues of these raw materials, residues, residues, the leftover, the residues from these processes like consumption and production processes remain and they usually harm the environment, like adversely impacting aquatic animals, marine animals like fish and other kinds of aquatic animals, reducing public health, deteriorating buildings due to industrial pollution, like ताजमहल के लिए एग्जाम्पल अभी आया था. Deteriorating buildings due to industrial pollution, and some residues are returned to nature, and remaining wastage is recycled. Keeping these factors in mind, the two environmental economists, Ayres and Nies, gave the material balance model. R.U. Ayres and A.V. Nies. You can take the spelling from here. Next slide, beta. Now what did they say? They jointly gave this model, and where they tried to establish the linkage between economy, ecology, and environment interaction. Economy, you understand. Ecology, you understand. Environment, you understand. So now these three are not separated in this model, but they have an interaction. Now, how do they have the interaction, or what do they want to say? Just read these lines. If waste assimilative capacity of the environment is scarce, the decentralized voluntary exchange process cannot be free of uncompensated technological external diseconomies unless all inputs are fully converted into outputs, with no unwanted material residuals along the way, and all final outputs are utterly destroyed in the process of consumption. If you analyze this definition given by them, there are certain points which you can mention when you are writing the answer. Number one, that the environmental capacity for the assimilation of waste is scarce. The first line, if you see, you can define it, you can explain it in your own words, that the waste assimilative capacity of the environment is scarce. That means environment has scarce limited capacity to assimilate the waste. Yesterday I told you about the comparison between a kitchen sink and the environment acting as a sink for the economic activities or the industrial pollutants. So we are talking the same thing here, that the waste assimilation capacity of the environment is limited, and that is why the second point, the decentralized voluntary exchange process cannot be free. That means you have exchange taking place in the economy, you have the consumption, production and distribution activities taking place within the economy continuously, and it's not centralized, it is decentralized. Some people are doing some production, some people are doing another type of production. So it's not that it's a very easy process. Centralized होता तो easy होता, लेकिन यहाँ पे जो exchange process है वो कैसा है, decentralized है. Every person is indulged into all these three types of activities: production, consumption and distribution. So in that case, this process cannot be free of uncompensated technological external diseconomies. जो आपकी टेक्नोलॉजी यूज़ हो रही है वो कितनी क्लीन है, वो कितनी वाइबल है, अगर वो नहीं है तो वो टेक्नोलॉजी जिससे कि इंडस्ट्रियल प्रोडक्शन हो रहा है, it will create external diseconomies. Diseconomy means it is creating those kinds of unnecessary expenditures which will be beyond the control of the producer, which will be beyond the control of the government. और external का मतलब क्या है कि वो जो diseconomies हैं या जो जिसको आप कहते हैं extravagant expenditure होगा, वो उस इंडस्ट्री तक ही लिमिटेड नहीं होगा, it will go beyond that. It will affect the neighborhood areas also in which that industry is set up. So it cannot be free of uncompensated technological external diseconomies. You will have to explain it with an example. Unless all inputs are fully converted into outputs. मतलब तभी हो सकता है कि जो आप ये ऐसा जो डिसइकोनॉमी का कंसेप्ट है ये तभी प्रूव नहीं होगा या तब हैपन नहीं होगा या जब फंक्शनल नहीं होगा अगर जितना भी हम फैक्टर्स लगा रहे हैं वो पूरा आउटपुट में कन्वर्ट हो जाए, मतलब कोई भी रेजिड्यूज ना बचें. अगर रेजिड्यूज बचते हैं, अगर पॉल्यूटेंट्स बचते हैं जो कि आपके इन्वायरमेंट में चले जाते हैं जिससे डिसइकोनॉमी होती है, तो क्या होगा, अनवांटेड मटेरियल रेजिड्यूल्स विल हैपन. तो हमें ये देखना होगा कि बेस्ट process would be where all the inputs are converted into output, where no unwanted material residuals happen and all final outputs are utterly destroyed in the process of consumption. So consumption changes into the demand for output and output is changing the inputs. no residuals, no unwanted residuals are happening. But if they happen, then we have to keep that the first line in mind, that the waste assimilative capacity of the environment is scarce. And that is why this is called the material balance model. We have to keep the balance between economy, ecology and environment. If this balance is disturbed, if you have more pollutants, if you don't if you are not able to convert the whole input into output, if you have unwanted residuals going into the environment, then automatically this balance will be disturbed, and then it will produce harmful effects not only internally but to the external diseconomies. Are you getting me? Is it clear? Then please write in the chat box yes. Then we'll go to the next slide. And if any line is not clear, please let me know. Because the whole material balance model is in these lines. Okay, thank you. So now we come to the next slide. Same thing which I just told you, that the functions of an economy are related to production, consumption and distribution activities, and these activities have a direct impact on nature. Next. Now, how these production, consumption and distribution activities are related to nature, we talk about that. Nature provides raw materials, then residuals from both production and consumption processes remain, and they usually render disservices, जो कि अभी हमने already explain किया है. कुछ चीज़ें जो हैं वो हमारे नेचर में रिटर्न हो जाती हैं, कुछ वेस्टेज रिसाइकल हो जाता है, और कुछ वेस्टेज हार्मफुल इफ़ेक्ट्स पैदा कर देता है. पॉल्यूशन जो होता है, जो रेजिडुअल्स क्रिएट करते हैं पॉल्यूशन, उससे जो एसिमिलेटिव कैपेसिटी ऑफ द एनवायरनमेंट है, दैट इज़ गोइंग टू बी डैमेज्ड. नेक्स्ट. Further, energy that is taken out of environment must reappear somewhere also in the economic system. Its form may be changed so that it appears as waste product and gases. Waste energy cannot be recycled, but waste material can be to a certain point. It means that economic activity always affect environment in direct or indirect manner. Thus, the law of conservation of matter and energy holds that matter can be transformed to other matter or into energy, but can never vanish. This is the scientific law, and that is why economics is also called social science, because this is the famous law of conservation of matter and energy. कि matter जो है, अगर if you are using a matter, then its form may be changed, but it will not disappear, like it will not vanish. That is the famous law of conservation of matter and energy. एनर्जी का फॉर्म चेंज हो जाएगा, आप जो इनपुट लगा रहे हो उसका फॉर्म चेंज हो जाएगा, लेकिन वो वैनिश नहीं होगा. सो ऑल इनपुट्स, नेचुरल इनपुट्स विच यू आर टॉकिंग अबाउट, लाइक फ्यूल्स, रॉ मटेरियल्स, वाटर, air, they are used in the economy's production processes, and they will ultimately result in an equivalent amount of residual or waste, because they are not going to be vanished. They are going to stay back either in the form of wastage or in the form of other kinds of residues. So we need to worry about this, that whenever we do this economic activity, how these residues are going to happen, whether these residuals are going to be recycled, or whether these residuals are going to create more burden on the environmental assimilative capacity. Now this is a material flow diagram which you can draw once we drop this PPT in the WhatsApp group. We start with nature, and nature is providing environment, that is nature is called, in other words, the environment in which we are producing our different goods and services, in which we are doing the consumption, in which we are doing all forms of economic activity. Now environment creates certain residuals, because nature provides raw materials. Now some raw materials are going to, like the outer cycle, if you see the outer diagram, this raw material is going to be used for production, and as soon as the production happens, this production is going to be consumed, so it results in consumption. Now whatever production residues are not able to be consumed or not fit for consumption, they are going to result in wastages, and wastages need to be disposed of. Now that disposal happens in the nature back, because environment acts as a sink of the wastage disposal. So the outer circle of this material flow diagram talks about the circular flow, that nature is giving raw material is going to be used in the production, as soon as the production takes place, it is going to be consumed or results in consumption. Those services or goods which do not like all the inputs which do not convert into production, they result in wastage, and that wastage needs to be disposed of back in the nature. Now those residues which are converted into the nature, they are going to be disposed of, and those residues which can be recycled can be resulting in recycling. So that is the internal diagram which you see, recycling. And recycling again takes place, and that converts our renewable natural resources into production back again. So there are two kinds of resources, so you emphasize on that. जो रिन्यूएबल रिसोर्सेज हैं उनको हम रिसाइकल करते हैं और वो फिर से प्रोडक्शन में यूज़ हो जाते हैं. सो द इंटरनल फ्लो डायग्राम, एंड प्लीज़ मार्क द एरोज, remember the arrows which are going in what direction, because the explanation of the diagram will very much depend upon the type of direction in which the flow happens. Now please see this diagram carefully. I am giving you 2 minutes, then we will go to the next slide. Please see this and say yes if you have understood. सब्जी काट दिया, सब्जी काटा, अरे नहीं सब रखी है वहाँ डलिया पे. झाड़ू पोछा करने आएगी कि करे? नहीं, झाड़ू लगा लिया करो. पोछा नहीं लगाओगी, झाड़ू लगाओगी, क्योंकि हम पैसे नहीं काट रहे हैं अभी. और वो बर्तन का डलिया अंदर रख जाया करो किचन साफ कर. नहीं, कल भूल गई थी बाहर ही. हाँ, सुबह सब पड़ा था. हाँ, सब्जी पूरी काटो. जो देखो बंडा काट के कुकर में डाल दो, धो के भसीड़ छील के डाल दो, एक साथ उबाल देंगे. ठीक है, इतना करो. और जो सोया मेथी है वो काट के रख दो. हाँ, okay, thank you. So now we come to the next slide. See, this is the explanation of the diagram which you can read. The mass inputs must equal mass output. That is the ideal situation, that all the inputs which you use in the production process must result in the output. Moreover, all resources extracted from environment must eventually become unwanted wastes and pollutants. This means, among other things, externalities associated with production and consumption of materials are actually pervasive, and they tend to grow in importance as the economy itself grows. As I already told you, that environmental goods are those goods where market fails, like air, water. They are free in supply, they are free gifts of nature. So you cannot say that you will take a price for that. That is how we define the externalities or the market failures. So in the case of environmental goods, the production and consumption of the raw materials which are given or provided by the nature, they become more important as we talk about economic development. We need them in the larger quantity, and material recycled can help, but recycling of energy is intensive and imperfect, so it cannot fully compensate. Now law of conservation of matter and energy again comes in and talks about this, that recycling of energy is intensive, imperfect, and that is why, but it cannot vanish, but you cannot fully compensate the energy or the material which you have used in the production process. Now, John Baldwin, who was an economist, also said that the conventional model of production and consumption omits important consideration. This omission results in emphasizing and managing only those sectors of production and consumption that are monetized. ये आपका conventional model है. अब आज के दौर में जब हम एक न्यू मॉडल ऑफ प्रोडक्शन और कंजम्पशन की बात करते हैं, then environment has gained so much importance. Now people have started, our policy makers have started worrying about the environmental aspect, because our raw material which was provided from the nature have started being replenished. Now we don't know from where we are going to do. Now the solar energy, for example, has come into existence. Now the government is giving too much importance to solar energy, solar panels, which was never being done in the conventional model, because conventional model talked about market success. Conventional model talks about only those goods which can be priced, only that production which can be sold in the market. And what happened, we did not realize the importance of those raw material which was coming from the nature. एंड रॉ मटेरियल के बिना तो आप प्रोडक्शन कर ही नहीं सकते, और जब प्रोडक्शन नहीं होगा तो कंजम्पशन कहाँ से होगा. सो दैट इज़ वाई Baldwin emphasized on this fact that the conventional model only tried to omit the complete scenario of the raw material provided by the nature. It only talked about that production and consumption which was monetized, that means which was being able to be sold in the market and be priced. See, but the real production and consumption of goods and the services in the world, especially in developing countries like India, occur even outside the formal monetized economy. Hence, the material balance model, which is a newer emerging model, provides a useful framework for analyzing alternative methods of resource and residual management. So, economics of the environment may be defined as a study which concerns allocation of resources among alternative uses in such a way that there is an efficient reduction of the waste or residuals in the environment. That means you talk about that kind of conversion of inputs into output which results in the least wastage or residuals in the environment, which does not overburden the assimilative capacity of the environment, which leads to an increase in the economic and social welfare of the people. Now, implications of this model. These disposal activities have lot of implication both for consumption and production, consumers and producers. So we have to see that it provides least resources, it provides least wastage, and disposal mechanism have to be very efficient. इसीलिए अब आप देखेंगे कॉलेज कैंपस में भी हम लोगों ने जो डिस्पोज़ल वेस्ट डिस्पोज़ल मैकेनिज़्म अडॉप्ट किया, उसमें एक ब्लू बास्केट है, ग्रीन बास्केट है. वाई वी आर डूइंग इट? बिकॉज वी हैव रियलाइज द इम्पोर्टेंस ऑफ एनवायरनमेंट and we are trying to look at the efficient mechanism of disposal, waste disposal. The second is the environment has a large waste assimilative capacity, but this is not infinite. That means environment एक बहुत बड़ा scene है, but then it has a limited capacity. It is not infinite. We don't have to forget this fact. And the third, with the application of the laws of thermodynamics, economic production and consumption activities always generate some pollution and waste. Law of thermodynamics, अभी आगे एक टॉपिक और है आपका एंट्रोपी लॉ, जिसमें हम लॉ ऑफ थर्मोडाइनमिक्स की बात करेंगे जो फिज़िक्स से आता है. इसमें अगेन वी टॉक अबाउट दिस दैट इकोनॉमिक प्रोडक्शन और कंजम्पशन एक्टिविटीज़ जो हैं वो कुछ पोल्यूशन और वेस्ट जनरेट करते हैं. Now, what is the role of the policy makers? What is the implication for them? That you have to, as a policy maker, you have to weigh up the social benefits of these production activities, of these consumption activities, and then on the other hand you have to talk about the measure the social costs imposed by these activities. If social costs is more than the social benefits, then you should not enter into that kind of production. But if social benefits are more than the social costs, then it's advisable for you to enter into that kind of production. So policymakers need to identify this, and there are certain techniques through which we identify the environment impact assessment. We do that EIA, that is called capital mein EIA techniques, environment impact assessment measures or methods or techniques through which we weigh up the social benefits and the social costs. If a balance can be reached between acceptable level of material flows, there will be an increase in the output and improvement in environmental quality. And this approach emphasizes recycle process and less residual generating production process. Residues, the wastage which is generated through production process, has to be least, and the recycling process has to be most efficient. Only then that environmental policy is said to be best and most efficient. The importance, you can conclude with this, that the importance provides a coherent framework in which economic analysis of resources use and its implication for the environment can be placed. S. Baker suggested that to improve the analysis of environment economy interactions, the empirically relevant and up-to-date knowledge of ecological and natural sciences needs to be used. Like we used the law of thermodynamics, we use the law of conservation of energy. So these laws of natural sciences have to be used in a more integrated manner into environmental economics and in a more systematic manner. That is why now we give more emphasis on interdisciplinary kind of studies. We heard that in arts also this year they are going to be introducing CBCS system, that is choice based curriculum, but abhi tak aaya nahi hai, isliye we are just following the syllabus which is provided on the Lucknow University website. But that is the real objective of the study, that when you are studying arts, you are not limited to only the art subjects, you are going into the natural sciences also. Similarly, the natural science students should also go into the economics and the other environmental economics kind of subjects, so that you can adopt an integrated approach for the analysis. So this is the PPT of material balance model, which I'll request Diksha to put in the WhatsApp group, so that you can have the material with you and you can write your short note on this, prepare your short note on this model. So we finished today's lecture.